When the Marquis's household came to deliver the betrothal gifts, Ning Yuanju walked past me and handed the gift list to my half-sister standing beside me. My mother stepped forward, her face stiff. "Marquis, perhaps you were momentarily excited and mistakenly gave the betrothal gift list to someone else." Unexpectedly, Ning Yuanju, who was betrothed to me, turned to me with a smile. "Yaoguang, His Majesty has dispatched me to garrison the northwest. Once I leave, I will certainly not return for at least 3 years. I know you are delicate and frail, and I cannot bear to have you endure the wind and sun by my side." At this point, his tone shifted. "So, I want Wanna to accompany me. Although she is the second daughter of the Xie family, she has endured hardships under your mother since childhood and is better suited to the frontier environment than you. Rest assured, this gift list is a reward for her. When I return, I will surely present double the betrothal gifts to marry you properly." He paid no heed to my embarrassed expression as he lifted Xie Lingwen onto the great steed. 3 years later, he returned to the capital on official duty, bringing his pregnant concubine sister with him. Glancing up and catching sight of me kneeling at the Empress's feet, he froze briefly before quickly darkening his expression. "Xie Yaoguang, I admit I broke my word back then, but Wanna is already with child. Even if you complain before Her Majesty the Empress today, I can no longer marry you." Hearing this, I was also stunned. It turns out he didn't know that the one sitting at the top was my mother-in-law. As soon as Ning Yuanju finished speaking, a gold-rimmed Yuhua green stone cup was thrown at his feet. The atmosphere in the grand hall instantly turned icy, and the Empress's faint voice echoed, "Ning Yuanju, considering that you have just returned to court today and have made contributions to our dynasty, I will not hold you accountable for what just happened, but if you continue to spout such nonsense, I shall have to discuss this matter thoroughly with His Majesty." Hearing the implicit warning in her words, Ning Yuanju's expression shifted slightly. He shot me an unwilling glance but ultimately fell silent. Yet the very next moment, Xie Lingwen, with her prominent belly, fell to her knees before the Empress with a thud. Her delicate face wore a pitiful, charming expression. Upon noticing my gaze, her body gave an exaggerated tremble. Your humble subject beseeches Her Majesty the Queen to grant justice." Seeing that the Queen had not yet spoken, Xie Lingwen cautiously glanced at me before continuing. "Your humble subject knows that Her Majesty is my sister's great-aunt, and in some matters, you are bound to show her a bit of favor. I dare not harbor any wild ambitions. I only ask that, after my sister enters the household, she will allow me to remain by Brother Yuanzhou's side. Even if it means serving as a foot-washing maid, your humble subject would gladly accept it." After saying this, she looked as if she had been fished out of water, yet she was exceptionally pitiable. Seeing this, Ning Yuanju hurried forward, his eyes bloodshot as he roared at me, "Xie Yaoguang, Wanna is my woman now. Not a servant of the Xie family. In my eyes, you're not even worth a single hair on Wanna's head." Xie Lingwen was the illegitimate daughter born to my father and a prostitute in a brothel. If it were any other family's mistress, how could she tolerate her husband's child with a prostitute? But my mother has always been soft-hearted. Although she never treated Xie Lingwen as her own child, she never once deprived her of food or clothing. Who would have thought that in the end, she would cry to the world about how poorly my mother treated her, even fabricating stories of being a slave in the Xie household, fighting with dogs for food. I gathered my thoughts, glanced at him calmly, and let out a scornful laugh. "Ning Yuanju, has the isolation and desolation of the Northwest left your mind addled? When have I, Xie Yaoguang, ever said I would marry someone like you?" Ning Yuanju was taken aback, about to speak, when an elderly nursemaid hurried over in a panic, holding a small infant. "Your Majesty, something terrible has happened. The little imperial grandson has broken out in a rash for some reason." Upon hearing this, the Empress seated on the Phoenix throne lost all her earlier dignified composure. Her solemn face was now completely overtaken by alarm and fury. She rushed to examine the child. "What on earth is going on? How could you let this happen to the child?" The baby's little face was flushed red, and red rashes had already spread across the exposed skin. At this moment, even the crying had ceased. Xie Lingwen whispered something to Ning Yuanju beside them, and the man's expression immediately turned grave. "Leah," my voice trembled as I hurriedly snatched the child from the old nanny's arms. But before I could get a clear look, the next moment my arms were empty. Ning Yuanzhou's steady, amused voice rang out. I had no idea that in the 3 years I've been in the Northwest. The Crown Prince had already married and had a child. He glanced at me indifferently, then placed the child in Xie Lingwen's arms. Seeing this, I cried out in disbelief, Ning Yuanzhou, what on earth are you doing? Give me back the child. The queen standing beside me was instantly enraged. Lord Ning, do you think your life is too long? Guards, seize him for me. Your Majesty, please do not be hasty. Ning Yuanzhou spoke at just the right moment, a confident smile playing on his lips as he then turned his gaze to Xie Lingwen. Just now, Wanna told me that the little imperial grandson was merely choking. As long as the foreign object in his throat is removed, he will return to normal. Xie Lingwen shyly lowered her head. Please forgive my presumption. Your Majesty, Wanna has merely learned some methods from the nomads in the borderlands, and I am certain I can save His Highness the imperial grandson. The Empress, seeing this, glanced at me. No, Liar looks like he's having an allergic reaction. If it were just choking, why would he have red rashes all over his body? I stepped forward to intervene, but Ning Yuanzhou suddenly grabbed my wrist tightly. His face was cold and filled with impatience. Xie Yaoguang, you only care about showing off in front of Her Majesty the Empress, but are you willing to gamble with a living life? This is not the time for you to compete for credit. As she spoke, Xie Lingwen raised her hand fiercely and struck the infant's chest with a sudden, violent force. Leah, I let out a heart-wrenching scream, my face turning deathly pale as I nearly collapsed to the ground. The Empress was also terrified out of her wits, almost ordering the guards to behead Ning Yuanzhou and Xie Lingwen on the spot. At that moment, the old nanny's voice rang out with delight, his crying. The child is finally crying. The infant, who had been silent just moments before, now let out a few soft, whimpering cries. Hearing the cries, the color finally began to return to my face. Xie Lingwen handed the child to the Empress, her delicate face covered in beads of sweat. I have fulfilled my duty. Although the little imperial grandson did not vomit anything, the foreign object in his throat has been swallowed. The woman cast a smug glance at me before speaking softly. Sister, why are you so flustered, stopping me from saving the little imperial grandson? Could it be? She suddenly seemed to remember something, covering her mouth abruptly. Ning Yuanzhou quickly snapped back to reality, his gaze fixed intently on my face. Then he looked at me with an expression of utter disgust. Xie Yaoguang, I wondered why you came to the palace today. If I'm not mistaken, the incident with the little imperial grandson was your doing, wasn't it? Are you trying to force the Empress to issue a decree for me to marry you by using the merit of saving the young imperial grandson? As these words fell, all the palace maids present were so frightened that they knelt to the ground. Ning Yuanzhou still frowned in confusion, only to hear my icy voice continue, How dare you? Ah, Xie Lingwen's cry of pain cut off the words I was about to speak next. Wanna, Ning Yuanzhou rushed forward to support her. I saw Xie Lingwen clutching her stomach, leaning halfway against Ning Yuanzhou's chest, her beautiful eyes welling up with the delicate, girlish charm of a young woman. Please forgive my sister for laughing, she said. Perhaps it's because I'm nearing my due date, but the child in my belly often kicks me. I imagine that once born, he'll be just like his father, a lively little rascal. At this, Xie Lingwen shot Ning Yuanzhou an even more bashful glare. Ning Yuanzhou let out a sigh of relief, then affectionately pinched the tip of her nose. You're always so good at scaring me. He gently patted Xie Lingwen's belly, putting on a stern face as he scolded, Little rascal, always kicking your mother. If you have the guts, come out right now and let your father teach you a proper lesson. His laughter abruptly ceased upon seeing my cold expression. He furrowed his brow and finally let out a sigh. Yaoguang, you must not be jealous. It's not that I won't marry you after all. Everyone knows you've waited for me for 3 years. I, Ning Yuanzhou, am not the kind of heartless, ungrateful man. Just wait until Wanna gives birth to a legitimate son. When the child's full-month celebration comes, I will marry you at the same time. At this point, he paused for a moment, ultimately too guilty to meet my gaze directly. When the time comes, I will make you my concubine. Upon hearing Ning Yuanzhou's absurd words, the mother-in-law beside us, after a moment of shock, turned pale with anger. I retorted coldly, Ning Yuanzhou, don't flatter yourself too much. I am already married, and Leah is in his arms. Xie Lingwen covered her lips, smiling as she interrupted me. Sister, you once said you would marry no one but the Marquis. Even when you learned that His Majesty had sent the Marquis to garrison the northwest, you sold all your dowry to buy military provisions and insisted on going with him. Xie Lingwen raised an eyebrow at me. Her expression filled with hidden pride and provocation. Although the Marquis ultimately chose me, your reputation for being desperate to marry is already widely known. I dare ask, which noble in the capital would still dare to marry you? Sister, Ning Yuanju first looked at me with a stubborn, unyielding gaze. Then his expression grew increasingly smug. He simply thought I was acting out of momentary anger. Yaoguang, I have kept all your kindness toward me in my heart. Besides, didn't the physician already diagnose that you are unable to conceive? Now that Wana has borne my child for you, you should be grateful. Why put on such a bitter and petty face? I recall the past, as if someone had poured a bucket of ice water over me in winter, chilling me from head to toe. I only hate myself for being blind back then. No one knew that Ning Yuanju not only dared not kill a person, but even dared not kill a chicken. Back then, he followed his father to the battlefield, but repeatedly deserted, becoming the laughingstock of everyone. Upon returning, his eyes were bloodshot, and he shut himself in his room, not taking a single step outside. It was I who, upon learning the news, found him and placed the sword in his palm. Ning Yuanju, no one is born a warrior. Even the old Marquis was once captured as a prisoner of war in his youth because his skills were inferior to others. You have practiced martial arts since childhood. As long as you break through your own limits, you are sure to achieve great things. Who would have thought that after I helped him overcome his inner demons, Ning Yuanju would either not kill at all, or once he started, he would become consumed by bloodlust. By the time he regained his senses, the sword had already been thrust into my abdomen, when he carried me, covered in blood, to find a doctor. The doctor only sighed and left a single sentence: "The sword has injured the womb. This woman will find it difficult to bear children in this lifetime." Upon hearing the diagnosis, Ning Yuanju went mad. Thrusting the sword fiercely into his own abdomen, he said, "Yaoguang, if I survive, I will never fail you from now on." Ning Yuanju survived, and having returned drenched in blood, he became a god of war on the battlefield, slaughtering enemies like cutting through hemp. It's just a pity that I never did get to wait for the day he would marry me. As my thoughts gradually gathered, I took my son from the Empress's arms. Only when my hands touched his warm little face did I regain a sliver of reality. But in the very next moment, I sensed something was wrong. Why haven't these rashes faded yet? My eyes suddenly widened, and my tone grew urgent. No, this must be an allergy. Call the imperial physician at once. I abruptly turned and asked the nanny loudly, "Did you feed Leah any peaches?" The old nanny's face turned pale, trembling as she knelt on the ground. This old servant has done nothing." I wanted to press further, but Xie Lingwen's voice rang out again. "Sister, why must you make things difficult for an old nanny? How many people in this world are allergic to peaches? Could it be that you are resentful for not being able to save the little imperial grandson, and now you want to stage this play all over again?" Ning Yuanzhou's eyes instantly darkened, and he gritted his teeth as he spoke to me. "Xie Yaoguang, you've really gone too far. Just because you're allergic to peaches, you think the little prince is the same. Do you really think the little prince is your own child?" I had no mind to pay him any attention and turned to give orders to my palace attendants. "Summon the imperial physician at once. Go to my palace and bring the calcanthite from the box." Xie Lingwen, who had some knowledge of medicine, suddenly widened her eyes and tugged at Ning Yuanzhou's sleeve as she spoke. "What does sister want with blue vitriol? Blue vitriol is poison. Brother Yuanzhou, hurry and stop her. Don't let sister do anything foolish." The palace maid soon arrived, and the mother-in-law, still uneasy, quickly spoke up. "Yaoguang, are you sure you're all right?" I looked at her and nodded seriously. "Trust me." Only then did my mother-in-law turn her face away, not daring to watch the next steps. But just as I was about to feed the child that calcanthite, Ning Yuanzhou fiercely knocked the thing out of my hand. "Xie Yaoguang, have you lost your mind? Harming the imperial grandson is a crime punishable by the extermination of 9 clans." He panted heavily, glaring at me with frustration and disappointment. "I know you only want to gain merit in front of the Empress. Fine, since you're so eager to marry, I'll agree to it. Now you should be satisfied, Brother Yuanzhou." Xie Lingwen's face turned deathly pale, and a stream of tears instantly fell. Ning Yuanju was immediately flustered, reaching out to gently wipe the tears from the corner of her eye. Wanna, don't cry. I won't abandon you either. After all, you are the woman who bore me my legitimate son. The position of principal wife will still be yours, he said with some difficulty. It's just that the position of the secondary wife. Upon hearing this, Xie Lingwen finally felt completely at ease and revealed a gracious, appropriate smile. I understand everything. The position of the secondary wife should go to my elder sister. Ning Yuanju smiled with relief. When he turned to look at me again, I had already fed the calcanthite on the ground back into Leah's mouth. After taking the medicine, Leah kept vomiting filth from her mouth. Xie Lingwen suddenly let out an exaggerated cry. Sister, how dare you kill the imperial grandson? Ning Yuanzhou's face changed drastically, and before anyone could react, he kicked me to the ground. My face slammed heavily into the pillar. Seeing no way to avoid it, I shielded Leah and tightly closed my eyes. The next moment, before the pain arrived, I fell steadily into a familiar embrace, accompanied by the sharp, anxious voice of a eunuch. How dare you harm the crown princess and the little imperial grandson? Seize the assassin at once. Ning Yuanju, you have some nerve. As soon as Shen Qing'an entered the door, he saw that Leah and I were nearly in danger, and his breath almost stopped. He held me. Are you all right? Are you hurt? In his anxiety, Shen Qing'an's face turned pale. The empress looked even more livid. Ning Yuanju, surrounded by guards, was so frightened that he knelt down, still looking utterly bewildered. Seeing this, Xie Lingwen hurriedly recounted the whole story from beginning to end, even adding dramatic details while wiping away tears. I tried to persuade my sister, reminding her that calcanthite is highly toxic, but she was still determined to earn the credit for saving the imperial grandson in front of the empress, hoping to force His Majesty to issue an imperial decree allowing the Marquis to marry her. The Marquis even said he was willing to take her as a co-wife, but my sister simply wasn't satisfied. Seeing the crown prince's face grow increasingly dark, Ning Yuanju quickly knelt down. Your Highness the Crown Prince, it is all my fault. I failed to control my woman, allowing her to act recklessly and poison the imperial grandson. If punishment is to be meted out, let all the blame fall upon me. Xie Lingwen looked at him in disbelief, her sobbing abruptly ceasing. Brother Yuanju. Ning Yuanju looked at her apologetically. Wanna, in the end, everything Xie Yaoguang did was for my sake. No matter what, I can't just stand by and watch her get her head chopped off by the crown prince. After saying all this, Ning Yuanju raised his head high, like a man ready to face death at any moment. The killing intent emanating from Shen Qing'an was almost impossible to rein in. At that very moment, the child in my arms stopped vomiting, and his face, which had been flushed with a bluish-purple hue, gradually regained a touch of rosy color. The imperial physician, who had rushed over in haste, confirmed after examination that both the child and I were fine. I let out a heavy sigh of relief, and tears involuntarily streamed from my eyes. Only then did the empress feel at ease, holding the child as she went to find a wet nurse. Before leaving, she left Ning Yuanju for the crown prince and me to deal with personally. Seeing me cry, Ning Yuanju thought I was moved by his deep affection, and his tone became somewhat emotional. Yaoguang, you finally realize your mistake. Don't be so reckless in the future. Fortunately, the little imperial grandson is fine this time. At most, I'll just take a few hundred lashes for you and it'll be over. Shen Qing'an, who had just relaxed, turned even more grim upon hearing these words. Ning Yuanju, how dare you? The crown princess of this palace is not someone you can casually fantasize about. Ning Yuanju gave him a puzzled look. Your Highness, when have I ever fantasized about your crown princess? After speaking, he stood up and pulled me behind him, then sternly scolded me. But you didn't follow the rules and angered the crown princess. He habitually furrowed his brows. Xie Yaoguang, how many more times must I tell you? Though I am a renowned marquis on the battlefield and your childhood betrothed, neither of these gives you the right to act so arrogantly. You come from a humble background, born into a merchant family. Though you have the empress as your aunt, the blood ties are distant at best. Do you truly believe that if you anger the crown princess, the empress would take your side? How utterly naive. I shook off his hand, stepping back with clear annoyance, and lifted my eyes to give him a cold glance. Ning Yuanju, what on earth is going through your mind? Can't you even consider that the crown princess Shenqing'an mentioned might be me? Xie Lingwen's sharp cry rang out. How dare you? Her face was deathly pale, but she suddenly darted forward, knelt before Shenqing'an, and kowtowed several times. Your Highness the Crown Prince. My sister misspoke in a moment of thoughtlessness. Please do not hold it against her. My sister has been willful and unreasonable since childhood. It's strange, but it's all because of our stepmother, who has always coddled her like a treasure in her hands, unlike me, who grew up with no one to rely on, experiencing all the hardships of life, and learned long ago to read people's expressions and act accordingly. Shenqing'an's lips twitched, and the next moment, his cold voice rang out. Since you're so adept at reading people's expressions, have you noticed the murderous intent in my eyes toward you? Xie Lingwen's face paled, and her body trembled heavily. Ning Yuanju immediately grew anxious, dragging me before Shenqing'an and raising his foot to kick fiercely at my legs. With a thud, I fell to my knees clumsily before the Crown Prince. Xie Yaoguang, hurry up and apologize to the Crown Prince. Wana was targeted by the Crown Prince because she helped you. Speak up now. Ning Yuanzhou's clamorous voice buzzed in my ears like a mosquito, but before I could utter a word, the Crown Prince suddenly delivered a fierce kick to the man's chest. A sharp pain shot through Ning Yuanzhou's chest. He stumbled, shattering dozens of celadon vases before barely managing to steady himself and avoid collapsing to the ground. Just as I turned my head, I saw Crown Prince Shenqing'an helping me up. Shenqing'an looked at him coldly, his voice like the icy chill of winter. Marquis Ning, you have quite the audacity, daring to humiliate my crown princess right before my very eyes. Tell me, what punishment do you think you deserve? Ning Yuanzhou's breath hitched, feeling as if someone had struck a heavy drum beside his ear, the vibration overwhelming his senses and plunging his vision into darkness. His lips trembled as he struggled to speak. You said Xie Yaoguang is your what? I leaned into Shenqing'an's embrace, toying with the four-clawed python pattern on the man's collar, and gave him a mocking glance. Ning Yuanzhou, all you need to do is ask around. Who in the entire court doesn't know that I, Xie Yaoguang, am the crown princess? I married into the Eastern Palace 3 years ago. As these words fell, the aura of authority that belonged to me instantly radiated from my person. In the midst of Ning Yuanzhou's stunned silence, Xie Lingwen rushed forward with reddened eyes, her emotions running high. Impossible. How could you possibly be the crown princess, if you truly were? Why would you still plot against the imperial grandson? I stared at Xie Lingwen's frenzied appearance, my voice growing even colder. Xie Lingwen, you only know that calcanthite is a poison, but you are unaware that it can also be used as an antidote. Since childhood, I have been allergic to peaches, and whenever I accidentally consumed them, I would use calcanthite to induce vomiting. That is why I always keep such a toxic substance in my palace. As these words fell, my gaze swept over the trembling old nanny. The other party fell to her knees with a thud, weeping and wailing as she begged for mercy. Spare me, crown princess. This old servant did not deliberately conceal anything. I truly did not know that the little imperial grandson was allergic to peaches. If I had known, I would never have fed him a bit of soft peach out of curiosity. I begged the crown prince and crown princess for mercy. Spare me, please. The old nanny paid no heed, kowtowing so fiercely that she soon broke the skin on her forehead, blood seeping out, beat her to death with the staff. In the palace, the greatest taboo is a soft heart. For a treacherous servant who nearly caused the death of my own son, I could muster no pity whatsoever. Shenqing'an signaled with his eyes for the attendants to drag the old nanny away. Upon learning the truth, Xie Lingwen was completely speechless, and at this moment, Ning Yuanzhou fully realized the fact that I had truly married the crown prince and given birth to a child. The once proud expression on his face completely transformed into screams and roars. Xie Yaoguang, why didn't you wait for me? I clearly told you that I would return in just 3 years to marry you. Why couldn't you even wait for these short 3 years? In his tone, I seemed like a woman clinging to power and influence. I narrowed my eyes, but my fingers clenched tightly one by one. Ning Yuanzhou, back then, you humiliated both me and my mother in such a manner, and in front of all the common people, you handed the betrothal gifts meant for me to Xie Lingwen. Do you know how much criticism my mother and I endured because of you? I suddenly pointed at Xie Lingwen. You publicly accused my mother of being harsh for the sake of this woman. But tell me, which family's matriarch, while being harsh to a concubine-born daughter, would still provide her with good food and drink, and even support her education and learning. Ning Yuanju choked on his words, speaking with a guilty conscience. I was just anxious in the moment, that's why, I sneered and continued. Back when I learned you were sent to the northwest by His Majesty, I even exchanged my dowry for provisions, ready to follow you to that frontier region. My gaze bore into him intently. But what did you do then? You said I was too delicate and frail to adapt to the harsh environment of the frontier. Then turned and left with my stepsister, not forgetting to take the 100,000 catties of provisions I had prepared. I pointed to the scar on my abdomen where he had once wounded me with his sword and spoke the final words with a heavy heart. Ning Yuanju, from beginning to end, I, Xie Yaoguang, have never owed you anything. I watched as Ning Yuanzhou's face gradually paled, his entire being shifting from spirited and vibrant to appearing as if he had lost his soul. Having said this, I turned my back to him. Shen Qing'an naturally couldn't stand to see this and, with a cold expression, ordered the guards to drive him away, escort Marquis Ning and his companion out of the palace. In a daze, they returned to the Marquis's residence. Suddenly, Xie Lingwen beside him clutched her abdomen, cold sweat beading on her temples. Brother Yuanju, it hurts so much, I think I'm going into labor. Upon hearing this, Ning Yuanju forced himself to snap out of his stupor and called for the servants. Hurry, go fetch the midwife, quickly. For 3 full days and nights, Xie Lingwen had not yet given birth to the child. Just as Ning Yuanju was in a state of extreme anxiety, the enemy forces from the northwest launched another invasion, and the emperor dispatched him to suppress them. With no other choice, Ning Yuanju could only settle the affairs of his household and lead his troops forward. Yet this time, Ning Yuanju, a seasoned veteran of the battlefield, felt a sudden flicker of unease in his heart. The deputy beside him chuckled and spoke up. Lord Ning, those barbarians truly have not given up their wicked ambitions. Upon learning of your return to the capital, they sought to trample this territory. Unfortunately for them, they never anticipated our swift response. Now, with the 2 of us joining forces, we will surely leave not a single one of them standing. With that, the deputy raised his flag and charged forward. The moment the enemy's heads fell, Ning Yuanju suddenly shuddered from head to toe. The deep-seated fear he had suppressed in his bones since youth surged to the surface once more. He suppressed the scream that was about to rise in his throat, gritted his teeth, picked up his sword, and prepared to charge forward. Little did he know that the deputy general was fighting too fiercely, and with another swing of his sword, the enemy's scalding blood instantly poured over his head. Ning Yuanju could no longer hold back a scream and rolled off his horse. The deputy general, looking shocked, called out Marquis Ning while shielding him and blocking the enemy's broadsword. A battle that should have been won in 3 days was dragged out for half a month, and in the end, it was only through the deputy general's forceful efforts that victory was secured. On the way back, Ning Yuanju seemed to have completely lost his soul. Upon learning the reason, the emperor flew into a rage. If not for the deputy general's turning of the tide this time, he would have ordered Ning Yuanzhou's head to be cut off. As it was, he merely sent him back to his residence, ordering him to rest and recuperate. He only said that when Marquis Ning had the courage to pick up his sword and kill again, he could return to court to resume his duties. These words of ridicule made all the courtiers believe that Ning Yuanju had already lost the emperor's favor, and his future prospects were bleak. It wasn't until he was escorted back to his residence by palace attendants that a flicker of life returned to Ning Yuanzhou's eyes. Remembering Xie Lingwen, who was still in difficult labor when he left, he immediately grew anxious and rushed to see her. Pushing open the door, the woman was instantly startled. Yuanju, brother. Ning Yuanju did not notice the unnatural expression on Xie Lingwen's face. Instead, after glancing around, he quickly grabbed the woman's hand. Wanna, where is our child? Is it a son or a daughter? Seeing the woman's evasive gaze, Ning Yuanju thought she had given birth to a girl, though he felt a twinge of regret. He forced a faint smile and comforted himself with a self-deprecating remark. Even if it's a daughter, it's fine. At least she won't inherit my condition of being unable to stand the sight of blood when she grows up. Xie Lingwen's body trembled even more with fear, and she stammered, Brother Yuanju, you must be tired from returning from the war. Wanna will wash up for you and serve you to rest. How about that? The man furrowed his brows. only then noticing something unusual. And his voice immediately grew heavy. Wanna, our daughter was born just half a month ago. Why isn't she by your side? I just found a wet nurse for the child. You know my body is weak, and I can't produce milk. Xie Lingwen forced herself to find an excuse. Hearing this explanation, although Ning Yuanju still had some doubts in his heart, he believed it nonetheless. But for 3 days in a row, he not only hadn't seen his daughter, but he hadn't even heard the sound of a baby crying. Ning Yuanju could no longer remain seated and demanded once more, Xie Lingwen, where is our daughter? As soon as he finished speaking, an elderly woman with graying temples rushed forward, crying out, my son, don't be fooled by this wretched woman. Mother, Ning Yuanju exclaimed in shock. Ever since father's death, mother had devoted herself to the solitary life of prayer and meditation, never once stepping out of the prayer hall. But now, how could she be here? The old lady cried out in despair while glaring fiercely at Xie Lingwen, whose face had turned pale. That wretch didn't give birth to your children, they're all the bastards of those savage brutes. Ning Yuanzhou's mind suddenly buzzed, and all the blood in his body seemed to freeze and rush to his head. Mother, what do you mean by that? The old lady pointed to the raised mound beneath the peach blossom tree. My son, to understand what your mother truly means, just dig open that grave and see. Xie Lingwen trembled all over, clutching Ning Yuanzhou's pant leg as she screamed hoarsely, Brother Yuanzhou, no. Don't. Ning Yuanju had no time to care about such matters. He kicked her aside with a heavy foot and ordered his men to dig open the mound. Soon, the body of an infant who had died several days earlier was exposed before their eyes. The baby boy was plump and chubby, with dark yellow skin. The most distinctive feature was his unusually high and prominent nose, the tip of which curved slightly upward. When the eyelids were lifted, the withered eyes still faintly revealed an unusual pupil color. As if carved from the same mold as those barbarians, Ning Yuanju watched, his blood surging in anger, a clot of stagnant blood rising from his chest to his throat, spraying across the floor. Meanwhile, on the other side, I was playing with the lively and adorable Leah alongside the crown prince. Shenqingen wrapped me and our son in his arms, the faint, elegant scent of pinewood on him bringing me a sense of peace. Crown prince, the man quickly tapped my lips, feigning displeasure. How many times have I told you, in private, just call me husband? If you still can't remember, shall I help you deepen your memory? As he spoke, his lips pressed toward mine with a commanding force. We didn't linger for long. The baby in my arms seemed to grow restless, whimpering softly. I hurriedly pushed him away, my entire face flushed with embarrassment. Back when Ning Yuanju abandoned me and went to the northwest with Xie Lingwen, I received a message from my aunt, the Empress. In the palace that very night, my aunt said that Crown Prince Shenqingen had long admired me and asked if I was willing to become his crown princess. At the time, I was shocked, as since childhood, I had only visited the palace a few times with my mother and knew very little about Crown Prince Shenqingen. On the day I received the news, I admit I was indeed angry with Ning Yuanju, but as time passed, I was moved by Shenqingen's sincerity. When Shenqingen learned that my womb had been severely injured, he searched the world for all the renowned physicians and personally brewed medicine for me for half a year. Learning that I could not bear the cold, he slaughtered an entire mountain for me, hunting enough fox pelts to cover every floor of the Eastern Palace. While other palaces turned as cold as ice cellars in the harsh winter, mine remained as warm as spring all year round. These were things that Ning Yuanju could not give me, or perhaps could not afford to give. I had thought Ning Yuanju had given up and would not come looking for me. But that day, as I was holding Leah and chasing butterflies in the imperial garden, the man stumbled into my sight. Yaoguang, Ning Yuanzhou's voice was hoarse, tinged with a longing I hadn't heard in a long time. Seeing him, I instinctively held Leah tighter and casually waved my hand, signaling the palace maid standing nearby to go find the crown prince. Ning Yuanzhou gazed at me with infatuation, and upon closer inspection, I could detect a faint scent of alcohol on him. The man's originally handsome and masculine face had become unkempt and disheveled due to lack of care. If outsiders were present, they would surely not recognize him as the once flamboyant young Marquis Ning. What are you doing here? I spoke warily. Seeing my expression, he seemed even more provoked, striding toward me before tightly embracing me in his arms. Yaoguang, don't push me away, I beg you. The man's voice trembled with deep desperation. In my arms, Lia erupted into loud wails, as if pleading for her mother's rescue. The next moment, I lifted my leg and kicked fiercely at his groin. With a sharp hiss of pain, he released me, crouching on the ground, veins bulging at his temples. I quickly soothed the frightened and crying Lia, speaking gently, "Don't be afraid, mother is here, mother is here." The infant's cries gradually subsided, and I cast a cold glance at Ning Yuanju. "Lord Ning, instead of staying at home with your beloved wife, what brings you here? Could it be that you still delude yourself into thinking I would become your concubine, or perhaps your equal wife?" Ning Yuanju rose from the ground in pain, his eyes red as he looked at me. "Yaoguang, it's my fault. I should never have taken that wretched Xie Lingwen to the northwest back then." When he mentioned Xie Lingwen, his voice was filled with a murderous rage, as if he wanted to cut her down. "Do you know, that wretched woman actually went behind my back, mingling with those northwestern barbarians, and even gave birth to this half-human, half-monster child. It's a good thing she was guilty and strangled that bastard before I returned to the capital. Otherwise, when I came back, I would have drowned both mother and child in the pond." Seeing the sinister expression on his face, a chill ran through my heart. I felt even more grateful for my decision to marry Shenqingen back then. Ning Yuanju suddenly grabbed my hand. "Yaoguang, please help me one more time." "Let go, Ning Yuanju, I have nothing to help you with." After saying that, Ning Yuanju handed me a sword, his eyes were filled with longing. "No, you definitely can. Back then, your method made me unafraid of blood from then on, so now you must have a way too, right? Just like you did back then, or something else. Whatever you do, I only beg you to help me overcome the fear in my heart." I remained silent, not uttering a word, while Ning Yuanju continued to speak, his voice trembling. "Yaoguang, I believe you absolutely cannot bear to see me like this, right? Back then, wasn't it also because you couldn't bear to see me in such a state that even when I hurt you there, you never blamed me once?" His tone was so presumptuous that it fueled my anger. I picked up my sword and pressed it against his chest. "Ning Yuanju, you are far too arrogant. My feelings for you vanished long ago. Now, not only will I not help you, I don't even want to lay eyes on you again." Upon hearing this, Ning Yuanju still did not believe it, as if unafraid of death. Pressing his chest forward another inch, "Yaoguang, stab me with your sword once more. It was I who wounded you back then, and now it is your turn to wound me. Please, I beg you." His eyes were filled with humility, and in the next moment, a cold voice rang out. "This crown princess's hands are not suited to be stained with blood. How about I take her place and deliver this sword strike on her behalf?" With that, a chill ran down Ning Yuanju's spine as a silver sword pierced through from his shoulder blade. The man let out a muffled, agonized groan before collapsing to his knees on the ground. I quickly retreated behind Shenqingen, holding the child, and looked at him with a pitiful expression. "Husband, you've finally come." The little one in my arms seemed to have found a safe haven. Giggling with a soft, chirping sound, I helplessly pinched his rosy, plump little cheek. You. Ning Yuanju struggled to stand up despite the pain, his gaze fixed fiercely on Shenqingen. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, don't you think you're meddling too much?" Shenqingen curled his lips, not bothering to conceal the murderous intent in his eyes. "Ning Yuanju, do you really still think you're the heroic and battle-hardened Marquis Ning in our father's heart? Now, forget about stabbing you with a sword. Even if I were to cut off your head right here, our father wouldn't blame me in the slightest." Ning Yuanju was left speechless by the retort and shifted his gaze onto me. "Yaoguang, I don't believe you have no affection for me at all. Just think of it as helping me, helping our Ning family. I can no longer be called a coward by others." Seeing the madness gradually spreading across his face, I slightly furrowed my brow. "Ning Yuanju, you asked me to stab you with a sword. Isn't it just to ease the guilt you feel toward me? But I refuse to grant your wish. If you truly wish to die, then go and take your own life before the Emperor in the Grand Hall. Why put on this act of madness and play the pitiful role in front of me?" Ning Yuanju's face paled, a flicker of guilt flashing in his eyes, but he had no chance to explain further. Yet Shenqingen's sword came at him once more. Unable to fend it off, he could only leave in frustration. The Emperor never summoned Ning Yuanju again, nor did he allow him to participate in any further battles. At the street corner, the blind storyteller began singing the songs of those days once more. The The Ning family's son stands 8 feet tall, yet cannot lift a hand or bear a burden on his shoulder. When the rooster crows, he sees chicken blood and wets his pants. Upon hearing this folk rhyme, Ning Yuanju went mad on the spot. He took up a sword in the street, stabbed himself hundreds of times, and died a gruesome death right there. When the news reached the palace, I was holding Leah, singing a lullaby, but my mind involuntarily drifted to the vows Ning Yuanju had once made to me. Now, someone else has already done it for him. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In the 4th year of our separation, I saw Jiyu Yunshao again outside the West Gate. He was the newly appointed 4th-rank prefect, warmly welcomed by the people. As he stepped down from the carriage with his family, Jiyu Yunshao caught sight of me waiting in line to enter the city. He walked toward me, his gaze restrained. The wind is strong today. You may enter the city with me. The woman following closely behind him, dressed in luxurious attire, regarded me with a hint of wariness. I shook my head with a smile. No need, Lord Jiyu, you are an official. I am a commoner. We have long ceased to walk the same path. Once winter sets in, the winds in Shiguan cut sharp as knives. I tucked the blue floral cloth tightly, covering a full basket of medicinal herbs. Perhaps from the long journey, Jiyu Yunshao's voice could not hide its weariness. Chantian, why must you be so distant with me? Hearing this form of address from Jiyu Yunshao made my body stiffen for a moment. Even when we were married as husband and wife, he adhered to the principle of mutual respect, only changing from Miss Yi to Yi Qian. Now that he has another family, his deliberate closeness inevitably makes me uncomfortable. As for the events of the past 4 years, there's really no need to bring them up again. Facing the cautious, probing glances of the common folk, I simply kept my mouth shut, standing quietly at the very end of the line, waiting to enter the city. After a tense moment, Jiyu Yunshao sighed softly and was about to board the carriage, yet upon seeing the bruises on the back of my hand, he suddenly clenched his fists tightly. Over these years, has anyone troubled you again? Though the words were directed at me, his gaze coldly swept toward Liu Tongji, who was leading the team to greet us. At that moment, his expression held 3 parts of flattery and 7 parts of nervousness. No one could have imagined that the young man from the Jiyu family, once bullied by everyone, would one day turn his fate around. Nothing, I just tripped while gathering herbs. I lowered my gaze to adjust my sleeves, only to have my wrist suddenly seized by Jiyu Yunshao. Let this official take a look at once. His palm was scorching hot, and with a strong grip, it sent a fine, dense pain radiating from my sprained spot. Only when he saw me furrow my brows did Jiyu Yunshao belatedly release his hand. Apologies, this official has been discourteous. The distance between Jiyu Yunshao and me, just 3 steps apart, seemed to freeze even the wind in place. Just as I was fretting over how to extricate myself, the woman behind Jiyu Yunshao gently tugged at his sleeve. Husband, who is this young lady? The woman was dressed in fine brocade, and her set of jade ornaments was of priceless elegance. Despite her restraint, the trace of disgust in her gaze made it clear she had already guessed my identity. I am the commoner wife who took advantage of the Jiyu family's misfortune to demand repayment of a favor, and she, Lu Shuhua, is the daughter of a grand secretary, once Jiyu Yunshao's childhood sweetheart and fiancé. Just look at the contrast between our current situations to understand. Jiyu Yunshao's marriage to me was a mistake. Divorcing me and returning to the capital is setting things right. He was still struggling with how to begin. I had already given Lu Shuhua a slight bow. Greetings, Madam Prefect. There was no reluctance, much less sorrow. From the moment I personally signed my name on that divorce agreement, I had warned myself I would only move forward, never look back, until the former prefect sent someone to urge him. Jiyu Yunshao had no choice but to enter the city first to complete the handover. The line of people waiting to enter the city began to move slowly. Familiar neighbors gathered around, repeatedly confirming Jiyu Yunshao's identity with me. That's him, right? The Jiyu family boy who was exiled back then, couldn't even afford a steamed bun at his hardest times. Little Yi, you even helped him buy ink and brushes. I thought you had found your ideal husband. Who would have thought that as soon as the Jiyu family was cleared of their crimes, he left? He's soaring high now, not even 30 and already a 4th-rank official, with a future full of promise. In the end, everyone looked at me with an expression of frustration. As if they were angry at my lack of resolve. Xiaoyi, you shouldn't have let go back then. The journey home, which used to take only the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, today felt like it took an eternity. As soon as I entered the courtyard, a jiang came over and started sniffing around me. A jiang is the yellow dog I've kept to guard the yard for quite some years now. I watched as it wagged its tail excitedly, skillfully picking up a piece of inkstone from the corner. I couldn't help but feel a bit helpless. Its nose is sharp, it must have caught Jiyu Yunshao's scent. That inkstone was originally a broken piece of a writing slab. In the past, in this courtyard, Jiyu Yunshao would always throw the stone away, then have Arjiang retrieve it. I knew in my heart that Arjiang's favorite person was Jiyu Yunshao. The day he left, Arjiang chased after him for a long, long way. When I parted ways with Jiyu Yunshao, I didn't feel much sorrow. But the thought that even Arjiang was about to abandon me, leaving me to live alone once again, sitting in the sunset, my tears simply wouldn't stop. Later, Arjiang dragged himself back, his paws worn and bleeding, looking utterly dejected. I was still sulking and hadn't given it any bones to eat for 3 days. At this moment, I patted Arjiang's head, just as I was thinking about how to explain to it that Jiyu Yunshao was no longer the same Jiyu Yunshao. Arjiang suddenly dashed toward the courtyard gate. I had barely turned around when I collided with Jiyu Yunshao's pair of pitch-black, icy eyes. Qianqian, have you been blaming me all along? If only you had been willing to leave with me back then. At this point, Jiyu Yunshao's voice faltered. I stared at him for a long moment, then smiled indifferently. It seems Jiyu Yunshao has always been quite clear in his mind. For years ago, he appeared to give me a choice, but in truth, for me, there was no way out at all. After the Jiyu family was convicted and exiled to Shiguan, their political enemies frequently instructed Liu Tongji to create obstacles for them. They stole grain, smashed water jars, and even burned the documents Jiyu Yunshao had painstakingly copied all night, causing him to be punished. Because of this, old lady Jiyu was so angry that she fell seriously ill. Jiyu Yunshao searched all over the city but couldn't find a single medicinal herb, with a life at stake. I ignored the neighbors' warnings and brewed medicine for old lady Jiyu for 3 days straight. While I kept watch by the medicine stove all night, I occasionally dozed off. Every time I woke up, I could always see Jiyu Yunshao sitting not far away. His eyes were very bright, as if a fire was burning within them. Because of this matter, Deputy Magistrate Liu sent people to trouble me quite often, and for a long time, I hadn't had a proper night's sleep. A few days later, Jiyu Yunshao knocked on my courtyard gate, leading a yellow dog. From now on, with it guarding Miss Yi, I can rest a little easier, though his words remained distant. But thinking of how old lady Jiyu said he was reserved by nature, I accepted this kindness. With Jiyu Yunshao, I was always the one taking the initiative. From the very beginning, he would frown whenever I got close. In the end, he could even carefully identify several medicinal herbs by the scent on me. I thought Jiyu Yunshao had already taken me to heart, but in the end, old lady Jiyu did not survive the first winter in Shiguan. Before her passing, she repeatedly entrusted Jiyu Yunshao. Qianqian is a good girl. She has done great kindness to our Jiyu family. Yunshao, you must not let her down. For the first time, the ever-unyielding Jiyu Yunshao's eyes reddened. Under the cover of my wide sleeves, I secretly took his hand. I thought I would never let go in this lifetime. Outside the courtyard, Jiyu Yunshao was nearly knocked over by the excited Arjiang. He picked up the inkstone and threw it far away, but Arjiang was old and took a long time to run back. Jiyu Yunshao's gaze swept over every object in the courtyard, as if with a touch of nostalgia. Qianqian, you and this courtyard haven't changed a bit. He wanted to say more, but I gently interrupted him. Jiyu Yunshao, have you ever thought about it? Why is it that in your heart, you've always thought of me accompanying you to the capital, but never of you staying in Shiguan for me? Jiyu Yunshao moved her lips, but couldn't utter a single word. The answer had long been in our hearts. Because he never considered Shiguan his home, and perhaps never truly saw me as his wife. From the day we left the capital, he had been like a walking corpse, forced to accept the unfolding of all events. It wasn't until the 2nd year of our marriage that a letter arrived from the capital, a letter from Lu Shuhua. Only then did he come back to life. I knew Jiyu Yunshao had returned to the Western Pass with another purpose. But I neither cared nor concerned myself with it. Only things I have truly possessed are worth my cherishing. Perhaps my attitude was too indifferent, for Jiyu Yunshao never stated his purpose in the end. When he left, Arjung lay at my feet and did not follow him again. I spent the entire afternoon processing the freshly picked herbs. Before I knew it, evening was approaching, and I stood up to stretch my limbs. Just as I was about to prepare some food, I heard Arjiang barking warily outside the window. Upon realizing the visitor was Lu Shuhua, I was momentarily taken aback. Out of courtesy, I still invited her into the house. The maids had to place 3 layers of handkerchiefs on the chair before this noble lady from the capital reluctantly took a seat. She examined me, her tone already carrying a hint of superiority. Regarding Miss Yi's matter, my husband has not kept it from me. I am not a narrow-minded person. I acknowledge that you have done the Jiyu family a favor. Back then, making you a concubine was my oversight, and indeed, I wronged you. Seeing that I remained silent, Lu Shuhua took a gift list from her maid. This list is prepared according to the standard for a principal wife, carefully drafted by me and Master Jiyu. Take a look. Miss Yi, if there's nothing else you need to add, then prepare yourself and choose a date to enter the manor. I took it and glanced over it. Indeed, every item was rare and precious. In Shiguan weddings, having just 1 or 2 such items is enough to be talked about for a long time, and I slowly closed the gift list. The magistrate's wife means for me to be a secondary wife. As Lu Shuhua had just nodded, I sneered and threw the booklet onto the table. The laws of our dynasty do not recognize co-wives. Put it nicely, but isn't it still just a concubine? The maid beside Lu Shuhua immediately darkened her expression and raised her hand to slap me. You insolent wretch, being a concubine is already an honor for you. Do you actually think you could become the legitimate wife? Before I could move, Arjiang had already rushed in and pinned the maid to the ground. The maid cried out in pain. Lu Shuhua was clearly frightened as well. Tumbling from her chair, "Help, someone, help!" Before the guards entered, I had already ordered Arjiang to release her. Arjiang knew her limits. The maid was not injured, only her face had turned deathly pale from fright. A hint of mockery flickered in the corner of my eye. Back then, I refused to be a concubine. And today my answer remains the same. Madam Prefect, if there is nothing else, please return. Jiyu Yunsaro and I ended long ago. Lu Shuhua glared at me with hatred. Yi Qian. A lowly commoner like you putting on airs of nobility. Don't think I don't know what you're scheming. You just want to keep Jiyu Lang hanging like this, to make him feel guilty toward you. Guilty. The word grew more bitter the longer I chewed on it. Jiyu Yunsao agreed to marry me on his grandmother's deathbed. But the Jiyu family was exiled to Shiguan, registered as a lowly status, and could not intermarry with commoners. Coupled with the intervention of Deputy Magistrate Liu, obtaining a change of status became exceptionally difficult. The redemption amount was more than 3 times the usual price. To gather this sum of silver, relying solely on me digging up ordinary herbs and treating people for minor ailments like headaches and fevers, it would take at least 5 years. Later, I ventured into the desolate desert 3 times before finally finding the priceless Sistanche Desaticola. After Jiyu Yunsaro was freed from servitude, she no longer had to endure humiliation or be ordered around by others. He became a teacher in Shiguan, respected by his neighbors, who often brought him surplus grain from their homes. Upon receiving his tuition fees, Jiyu Yunsaro went to the silver shop and had a hairpin made for me. He said that from now on, I would have one every year for my birthday, and the betrothal gifts he owed me would be made up sooner or later. When Jiyu Yunshao put the hairpin in my hair, the bronze mirror reflected the smile at the corner of his lips. In the 2nd year of our marriage, I went out to gather herbs. I hurried back as fast as I could, only to find that Jiyu Yunshao had completely forgotten my birthday. He was overjoyed, lost in the letter from the capital. At first, I thought only that the Jiyu family had hope of being cleared of their charges. Every time I helped my mother-in-law and sister-in-law with their work at the labor camp, I was filled with energy, and I felt that life was becoming more and more hopeful. But gradually, I noticed that something had changed. My mother-in-law, who had always been gentle with me, began to nitpick my every flaw. My sweet sister-in-law no longer slipped into my bed to whisper secrets. As I ground ink for Jiyu Yunshao as usual, he hesitated to write, letting a glaring ink drop fall onto the paper. Though we lived under the same roof, we were worlds apart. I didn't know Ji Yunxiao had stopped teaching until the school children came looking for him. In the morning, I followed him out and watched him enter the finest mansion in the West Gate. The coachman outside the gate said the courtyard had been rented by a noble lady from the capital. The capital, that must be someone Ji Yunxiao knows well. I think of those thick letters, as if Ji Yunxiao and she always had endless things to say to each other. But to me, he is always silent. That day, I waited until evening and intercepted Ji Yunxiao outside the door. Who is she? What exactly is your relationship? I struggled to maintain my composure, yet Ji Yunxiao's indifference easily pierced through my defenses. She is Lu Shuhua, the daughter of the Grand Secretary, my childhood sweetheart and fiancé. Yi Qian, our marriage was a mistake. The one I should have married is her. At that moment, I looked at Ji Yunxiao as if I had never truly known him, even though he was still wearing the patched robe I had mended with my own hands, even though before leaving, he had put down his bowl and chopsticks and said he would return home early. Then why did you marry me in the first place? I tried hard to keep my eyes open, but my lips trembled uncontrollably. Saving lives and curing illnesses, I never expected anything in return. I thought Ji Yunxiao married me out of genuine sincerity, but he said, because it was grandmother's dying wish, and also, perhaps sensing that I was at the end of my rope, Ji Yunxiao didn't press the topic further. With the Lu family's efforts in the capital, the Ji family will soon be exonerated. Shuhua has waited for me for many years. In terms of status, I can no longer let her suffer any injustice. Yi Qian, if you are willing, you can come to the capital with us and live together. Ji Yunxiao spoke very tactfully. He intended to give the title of principal wife to Lu Shuhua, while I could only be a concubine. When Ji Yunxiao pointed towards the capital, his expression was unusually vivid. The Ji family's mansion in the capital is very large. You can plant your favorite herbs there. The liveliness of the capital is far beyond what a remote town like Shiguan can compare to. We can go see the lantern festivals. Visit. No need, I interrupted him calmly. Ji Yunxiao. Let us part ways. Ji Yunxiao visibly let out a sigh of relief. After delivering the divorce agreement to the Yamen, I went to the labor office as usual to help out. Because old lady Ji had genuinely treated me well, I was willing to regard her relatives as family. After the Lu family stepped forward, Assistant Prefect Liu no longer dared to play any tricks, and the work remained relatively light. When I felt weak and suspected I might be pregnant, before I could confirm it, I was pushed into a deep well. The sister-in-law who always sweetly called me sister-in-law revealed a terrifying face at the mouth of the well. Yi Qian, blame yourself for blocking my brother's path. I soaked in the icy well water for an entire night, checking my own pulse over and over until the slippery pulse turned faint, and I broke down in tears. I lost both parents at a young age and was raised by my master. After my master passed away, I remained all alone. I thought meeting Ji Yunxiao and his family was a blessing from heaven. The outcome, however, was a grave mistake. After I was rescued, I fell seriously ill. Once the Ji family cleared their name, not only did they take the life of my unborn child, but even if they had killed me, there would have been no justice to be found. Unable to confront them, I could only hide. Ji Yunxiao had come several times, and each time I drove him away, he lingered by the window. When you've thought it through, you can send a letter to the Ji residence in the capital. I will surely send someone to fetch you. The only response he received was the silver hairpin I threw at him. The day the Ji family left the capital, I gathered Ji Yunxiao's calligraphy, paintings, and clothes, and burned them all along with my one-sided affection. Ji Yunxiao's guilt, I neither need it nor care for it. Looking at Lu Shuhua before me now, I felt a touch more pity. Madam Ji, aren't you tired of worrying every day that your husband might be thinking of another woman? Lu Shuhua's face turned ashen. Just as she was about to retort, she heard a maid scream, "Blood! Madam is bleeding. You wretched woman, if there is even the slightest harm to the child in my lady's belly, the master will surely have you skinned, your bones broken, and fed to the wild dogs." After Lu Shuhua and the others left, I painstakingly gathered the medicinal herbs in the courtyard that had been trampled. Given Ji Yunxiao's current status and position, seeking revenge on me would naturally be effortless. Since I cannot avoid it, I can't be bothered to worry so much about it. I just didn't expect him to come so soon. Ji Yunxiao came alone. He stepped into the house on his own, frowning at the simple, plain food on the table. Is this what you usually eat? I prefer light flavors, but I never deprive myself. For example, this brown rice porridge is sweetened with sugar and astragalus I grew myself, making it perfect for women to gently nourish their chi and blood. Has Lord Gu come to demand an explanation? I picked up the bowl and began sipping the porridge. In my former mother-in-law's eyes, vulgar habits were something I never intended to change. Yet, Gu Yunshao's eyes held a trace of nostalgia. He took a seat across from me. Shuhua's child is fine. She's been spoiled by her father and brothers in the capital. After a pause, Gu Yunshao brought up that matter again. But she means well. The world is already harsh on women, and you've been married once before. Shuhua is willing to treat you as an equal wife. So I should accept it with gratitude. I set the bowl down, making a sound that was neither too loud nor too soft. Gu Yunshao, have you lost your mind from reading too many books? Lu Shuhua revived the Gu family from the brink of collapse and gave you boundless prospects. It is you who should be grateful to her. Yet you use the 3 obediences and 4 virtues to pressure her into being magnanimous, making her pay for your guilt. Harsh words are never pleasant to hear. Gu Yunshao naturally showed a displeased expression. Yi Qian, don't speak to me in anger anymore. Out of all the good postings available, I specifically chose to return to Shiguan all for you. I chuckled softly, thinking to myself that after a few years apart, he had only grown more hypocritical. If it's for my sake, Lord Gu, it would be best for you to be a good official for the people of Shiguan and keep a respectful distance from me, like well water not intruding on river water. Without giving Gu Yunshao any chance to retort, I cut him off with my words. If Lord Gu wishes to use the rest of my life to ease your own troubled conscience, that would be repaying kindness with ingratitude. In the past, he always had little to say to me, but now I have come to realize that I too possess a sharp tongue. Gu Yunshao's expression shifted repeatedly. After a long while, he finally took a deep breath. Regardless, Shuhua was frightened today. Come with me to apologize to her, and we'll let this matter rest. Gu Yunsaro didn't expect me to agree so readily. In the carriage on the way to the magistrate's office, he mentioned the banknotes, jewelry, and clothes he had sent me over the years, and the rouge from Ziyun Tower in the capital, specially supplied to the noble ladies of the palace. I don't understand why he didn't leave it for Lu Shuhua. Gu Yunshao knew full well that I never cared for such things, and even though the silver notes, jewelry, and clothing were all donated to the school, they still brought me a lot of gossip. Over the past 4 years, many people in Shiguan have pointed at me and called me shameless. They say I gave up my position as the lawful wife for the sake of wealth and status, willingly becoming Gu Yunshao's mistress. I don't care what outsiders say. In the end, it's still a roof over my head and 3 meals a day. Nothing much changes. The carriage stopped at the side gate of the government office. After Gu Yunshao got off, he naturally reached out to help me down. I paid no heed and jumped down from the other side. The government office was in some disarray, with servants busily moving large items back and forth. Lu Shuhua was now lying in the main room, where the stove was burning hot, and her complexion looked much better. Husband, Missy surely didn't mean it, and the doctor also said I'm not seriously hurt. Before Gu Yunchao's expression could soften, the long-faced woman beside her snorted coldly. Our young lady is the apple of her parents' eyes. She's never even scraped her skin in the capital. If the young master allows this lowly woman to bully our young lady, the master will be displeased when he finds out. Lu Shuhua's dowry attendant, Granny's son, kept calling her lowly woman, her words laced with threats. Gu Yunshao's face grew darker and darker as he listened. Didn't Yi Qian come to apologize to Shuhua? An apology is enough. She nearly caused my young lady to die with her unborn child. Old woman's son's voice grew sharper and sharper, grating on the ears. This shameless woman must kowtow 3 times and bow 9 times to the young lady, and then slap her own mouth 30 times, so she can remember this lesson. As she spoke, Granny's son took it upon herself to call the servants in. I stood still, but Gu Yunshao had already stepped in front of me. Granny's son, I respect you as Shuhua's wet nurse. But if you dare to act recklessly again, don't blame me for being impolite. Old lady's son clearly didn't expect Gu Yunshao to intervene and was momentarily taken aback. It was Lu Shuhua who suddenly choked back a sob. Husband, if something truly happened to me today, would you still protect Miss Yi? Have you forgotten that it was I who threatened my father by cutting off my hair, forcing him to clear the Jiyu family's name? Jiyu Yunshao's body trembled slightly, clearly showing his mind was in turmoil. After wrestling with himself for a long time, he finally turned around, yet his gaze dared not settle on me. Yi Qian, Shuhua is, after all, carrying a child. What happened today is no small matter. Please bear with it and kowtow to her as an apology. Upon hearing this, Lu Shuhua revealed a triumphant smile behind his back. I was smiling too, a mocking smile. Lord Jiyu, what about my child? No, I should say our child. Isn't he pitiful? Who should pay for his death with a life for a life? When Jiyu Yunshao learned that I had lost a child, both before and after the divorce, his spine seemed to bend a little more under the weight of something heavy. Jiyu Yunshao could easily betray a woman, but he could not escape the guilt. This is probably why I can't bring myself to hate him, nor can I forgive him in the end. The only choice left is to let go. After my miscarriage, I once thought about seeking justice for myself. But when I mustered the strength in my weakened state to find Jiyu Yunshao's sister, Jiyu Yunyun, I learned that someone else had been the one to instruct her. My master has long held a grudge against the Jiyu family, so we absolutely cannot allow that woman's surname Ji to follow young Master Jiyu back to the capital. Miss Jiyu, rest assured, once my young lady and Master Jiyu are happily married, as your sister-in-law, she will surely keep an eye out for a suitable match for you. The person colluding with Jiyu Yunyun was none other than Lu Shuhua's wet nurse, Granny's son. If I hadn't already decided to divorce, I would likely have died silently in that illness. Jiyu Yunshao's eyes grew redder and redder. There is the regret of ignorance, and the anger of being deceived. When I produced the tally token that Granny's son had left behind in the tea house years ago to confirm the matter, Jiyu Yunshao kicked her to the ground. You wretched slave, you truly deserve to die. After all these years in exile, Jiyu Yunshao was no longer the frail scholar who couldn't even tie a chicken's legs. Seeing Granny's son's nose and mouth bleeding, she kept begging for mercy. Lu Shuhua overturned the medicine bowl. Jiyu Yunxiao, have you gone mad? Granny's son watched us grow up. Are you really going to ruin the friendship between the Lu and Jiyu families over some lowly commoner? These words were like a bucket of cold water, completely dousing Jiyu Yunxiao's anger. The Jiyu family had already lost its pillar, Master Jiyu. In this calamity, Jiyu Yunxiao's official career still relied on the support of his father-in-law, Yi Qian. Jiyu Yunxiao's eyes were deep, suppressing pain and guilt. What's past is past. Every time he weighs the pros and cons, it chills my heart. His wife, his child, his self-respect. In the end, none can compare to his bright future. Fortunately, I no longer hold any expectations for Jiyu Yunshao. This justice, I will claim sooner or later. I gathered the evidence and turned to leave, but Lu Shuhua stopped me with a sharp command. Leave the token behind. As a family with a century-old legacy, the Lu family's tokens were meticulously crafted and bore unique marks, making them impossible to counterfeit. Naturally, it was the conclusive evidence of the murder. The old woman and the maidservant stepped forward to block my way, but they were all frightened back by the dagger I drew. But the last person standing in my way was Jiyu Yunshao. Yi Qian, I know many things have wronged you, and I will make it up to you. Will you help me one last time? Please. Jiyu Yunshao's humility made it impossible for me to connect him with the person he once was. Back then, though he was down on his luck, he still carried an unyielding pride. He would resist the oppression of Magistrate Liu, never begging for mercy even when beaten black and blue. He would shoulder the heavy burdens of the labor camp to protect his family. Despite being a scholar with only his frail body to rely on, he would rather go hungry for 2 days than not buy a pen. Others laughed at his foolishness, his stupidity. I once genuinely admired his persistence, but the Jiyu Yunshao I liked has long since ceased to exist. Seeing me step back, Jiyu Yunshao grew anxious and tried to snatch the token. Without hesitation, I swung my blade, cutting his arm, while Lu Shuhua clamored to have me arrested and sentenced. Jiyu Yunshao still stared in disbelief at the bleeding wound. Yi Qian, you've really changed a lot, I responded with silence. People change, especially after enduring enough hardships. Lu Shuhua called for the officers and soldiers, intending to have me apprehended. Suddenly, an announcement came from within the courtyard. The governor of Western Shaanxi has arrived. Both Jiyu Yunshao and Lu Shuhua were taken aback. According to protocol, Jiyu Yunxiao was supposed to complete the handover before setting off to Yang Cheng to meet the governor. Husband, go change your clothes quickly. Don't be discourteous. Lord Shen, the governor of Western Shaanxi, is the elder brother of the current prime minister. Even my father wouldn't dare offend him. Lu Shuhua turned her gaze and ordered someone to quickly drag me away. Just then, a stern shout came from outside, "Who dares lay a hand on her?" The old man had a lean and gaunt figure, having long held a high position. His authority was felt even without anger. Jiyu Yunxiao and Lu Shuhua hurried forward to pay their respects. Seeing me walk toward the old man, Jiyu Yunxiao grew anxious in the moment. "Yi Qian, come back. Mind your manners before the governor." Lu Shuhua wore an expression of someone ready to enjoy a spectacle. Yet it crumbled the moment I skillfully supported the old man's arm and called him father. Impossible. How could a lowly commoner like you possibly know the governor? Even Jiyu Yunxiao froze, his eyes trembling as if he were earnestly pondering whether I had kept something from him in the past. I smiled, knowing in my heart that I had done the right thing by leaving him back then. After Jiyu Yunxiao left, I spent some time in a daze, all alone, until an old man knocked on the courtyard gate. The old man claimed to be an old friend of my master, suffering from a serious illness and had come specifically seeking medical help, unaware that my master had passed away many years ago. The one ingredient missing from his prescription was precisely the Cistanche desiticola that I had risked my life to gather years ago, and the location where this herb grew was recorded in the notes my master had left behind. I retrieved the herb without incident and declined the old man's generous reward of 1,000 gold pieces. Because my master had instructed before his passing that if any old friends ever came to the door, I should help them if I could. Who would have thought the old man was Shen Wuhui, the newly appointed governor of Western Shaanxi? Over the years, I often traveled between Shiguan and Yangcheng to deliver medicinal herbs to him and help regulate his health. Governor Shen never married in his life, so he took me in as his adopted daughter. When he told me that Jiyu Yunxiao would soon be taking up his post in the Western Pass with his family, I was already prepared to seek justice for everything that had happened in the past. At first, Granny's son stubbornly refused to reveal Lu Shuhua, but when a person has lived in comfort for too long, their flesh can no longer endure pain. After 20 strokes of the cane, she confessed everything. Back then, Jiyu Yunxiao wanted to take me back to the capital with him. Lu Shuhua, who had always resented him for having married me, instructed Granny's son to manipulate Jiyu Yunyun in an attempt to cause my accidental death. Granny's son recounted the details vividly, even describing Lu Shuhua's expression and demeanor at the time with striking accuracy. Unable to bear it any longer, Jiyu Yunxiao slapped Lu Shuhua across the face. "You poisonous woman, if I had known Qianqian was carrying a child at the time, I would never have agreed to the divorce." Jiyu Yunxiao, do you even believe those words yourself? Lu Shuhua covered her face, her eyes wide with fury. "You never loved Yi Qian, and you certainly don't love me. All you care about is your career. You are utterly heartless and faithless," Lu Shuhua said, following the path of promotion her father had arranged for Jiyu Yunxiao. All he needed to do was serve this term as prefect in Shiguan, paving the way for his entry into the Grain Transport Administration. In at most 10 years, Jiyu Yunxiao would be stationed in the central government, becoming a true minister trusted by the emperor. But as the saying goes, success and failure both come from the same source. Lu Shuhua was the mastermind, but due to her pregnancy, she was exempt from punishment, and Jiyu Yunxiao was sentenced to take the blame on behalf of his wife. His official rank was demoted to the 6th grade Tongpan, lower than the 5th grade Liu Tongji. This case will be truthfully reported by Magistrate Shen, making it difficult for even Lord Lu to continue shielding his daughter. As for the one who actually targeted me, Jiyu Yunyun, she was originally supposed to be sentenced to exile, but Lady Jiyu exhausted the family's savings to pay the ransom. Jiyu Yunyun had originally married into a respectable family in the capital. However, she was exposed for lacking virtue and failing to produce an heir in 3 years, leading to her being sent back home with a letter of divorce. Jiyu Yunyun spread rumors throughout the capital, claiming that Lu Shuhua had forced the matter in an attempt to clear her own name, but was suspected of being targeted by the Lu family in retaliation, abducted by bandits, and left dead in the wilderness. After completing his final duties in office, Minister Shen submitted a memorial to the emperor, requesting to retire and return to his hometown. Worried about his illness, I decided to leave with him. Returning to the small courtyard to pack my belongings, I realized how pitifully few things I had. I used to stubbornly consider Shiguan my home, but in truth, apart from my master, I have very few good memories to hold on to. Ajiang seemed to sense something. These past few days it's been anxiously hovering around me. I crouched down and gently rubbed its head. Don't worry, I won't leave you behind. It was at this moment that Jiyu Yunxiao entered. He had lost the youthful spirit of their first meeting, nor did he carry the stern official authority from their reunion outside the Western Pass. Having offended Lord Shen, it was no surprise that he would spend the rest of his life in the position of a deputy prefect, grinding away until his oil ran dry and his lamp burned out. Is there something you need, Lord Jiyu? My tone was indifferent, no different from before, who he was no longer mattered to me. Yet Jiyu Yunxiao clearly found the words that followed difficult to utter. Miss Yi, there's something I'd like to ask for your help with. These days, Lu Shuhua has been deeply troubled, with clear signs of a miscarriage. Jiyu Yunsaro sent people to inquire at all the large and small pharmacies in Shiguan, but they were missing just one crucial medicine to protect the pregnancy. Coincidentally, the medicinal herbs I brought back this time could be put to good use. I casually pointed toward the wooden shed where the herbs were drying. No matter what Lu Shuhua has done, she has already paid the price. I have no intention of making things too difficult. Jiyu Yunxiao expressed her thanks but remained standing in place, hesitating to leave. I heard you're leaving Shiguan. Yeah. I packed my clothes without looking up. Lord Shen's hometown is in the Huguang region. That area is rich in medicinal herbs and has convenient water transport. Opening a medicinal herb shop there would likely be a good idea. Is there anything else? After I had tied up my bundle and straightened up, I noticed Jiyu Yunxiao was still there, his words already carrying the intention of seeing me off. Jiyu Yunxiao looked hesitant, and finally took out that silver hairpin from his sleeve, perhaps from frequent handling. The originally plain silver hairpin now exuded a warm, gentle luster. Is this the payment for the medicine? I smiled as I took it. My heart still holding on to the flutter I felt when I first received a birthday gift. The neighborly aunt said, "A man who earns 1 copper coin but is willing to spend 2 on you can never be wrong." I once thought Jiyu Yunxiao was exactly that kind of man, but in the end, it's always hard to withstand the fickleness of the human heart, whether it was out of guilt or insincerity. It's all in the past now. I picked up the wooden mallet and hammered the hairpin back into its original form, a silver ingot. Traveling requires some loose silver for expenses. The joy in Jiyu Yunxiao's eyes, which had sparked when I took the hairpin, slowly faded away. If I had stayed in Shiguan back then, would our child already be attending school by now? He could have learned about medicinal herbs from you, studied literature and writing with me, advancing to pursue an official career in the court, or retreating to wander freely across the land. Such simple, attainable peace and prosperity. Why did I keep pushing it further and further away? Hearing Jiyu Yunxiao mention a child sent a sharp pang of pain through my heart. What I lost back then was far more than just a child. Soaking in ice water overnight and miscarrying left me deeply chilled to the bone. In this lifetime, I will never be able to have a child of my own again. But perhaps, that's for the best. I can't even see through a man clearly, so how can I talk about raising a child well? It's not bad to live a life free from constraints, like Master and Lord Shen. Even if there are regrets in the end, that's perfectly normal. After all, it's rare for life to be perfect. Jiyu Yunxiao, I didn't want to hear any more, so I had to speak up to remind him. Father has already retired and returned to his hometown. No, Qianqian, you've misunderstood. I don't mean anything else by it. Jiyu Yunxiao was eager to explain. This time, he wasn't pleading for his career. I stopped what I was doing and, for the first time since our reunion, looked at him carefully. Jiyu Yunxiao, your desire to advance, to climb higher, has never been wrong. You may seek help from others, or rely on yourself, but you should never exploit and trample upon genuine sincerity. If you cannot even love one person, how can you speak of being a good official who loves the people? Lord Shen only blocked Jiyu Yunxiao's shortcut. How far his political career will go in the future depends entirely on himself. Yi Qian, will you come back then? Before Jiyu Yunxiao left, he asked one last question. I thought about it carefully, And the answer is, not necessarily. I might develop a reclusive mindset because I cannot adapt to the prosperity within the pass. At that time, I would probably choose to return to the Western Pass. The wind and sand here are the soil I cannot bear to part with. But I might also linger in the vast world and among all kinds of people, for where my heart finds peace is home. The Shen family caravan set out from Yangcheng, passing through the Western Pass. Ajiang excitedly ran along for a while before jumping onto the carriage, exhausted from the effort. Hearing it bark twice toward the rear, I lifted the carriage curtain and saw Jiyu Yunshao standing far away on a hill. The morning haze made it hard to see his face clearly. This time, it was he who stayed behind, it was I who left. Only upon reaching Huzhou did I understand why Lord Shen had insisted on my coming along. The two adopted sons he had taken in earlier were now, one a high-ranking provincial governor, and the other the wealthiest man in Huguang. They have publicly claimed to have hidden ailments, and over the years, they have managed to dissuade countless well-matched young ladies. Lord Shen was also in a difficult position, fearing that the family's shame would be exposed, so they sent me, a family member, to return and diagnose my two elder brothers. Watching them exchange knowing glances, I didn't expose them, but after deceiving Lord Shen for so many years, I also had to swallow a couple of bitter pills myself. Lord Shen loved fishing, so I handcrafted nearly 10 different types of bait, ensuring he returned with a full catch every time, even at the dinner table. His criticism of my two elder brothers' lifelong matters grew less harsh. Though we shared no blood ties, we gradually began to live like a true family. Thanks to the convenience of the Shen residence, my medicinal herb shop opened smoothly. In business, it's inevitable to have both gains and losses. But the herbs shipped from the Western Pass via canal transport were all of excellent age and quality. By chance, I chatted with the boatman from that area and learned that Jiyu Yunshao had resigned from his official post a year ago. He not only bought my courtyard but also revived the nearly abandoned herb garden. He personally led teams into the mountains and forests to gather rare medicinal herbs. No matter how high the price offered by traders, Jiyu Yunshao always sold them to my pharmacy at a low cost. In his spare time, he returned to the school to teach. Hearing the boatman say that Jiyu Yunshao had saved up his tuition fees to have a hairpin made at the silver shop, I was taken aback for a moment, then smiled faintly. That must be for his wife, shopkeeper Yi. You don't know, his noble wife had a miscarriage the year before last and then divorced him. Returning to the capital, I heard her family arranged another marriage for her, to a minister over 50 as his second wife. When it came to gossip, all the boatmen from every direction gathered around to listen. I returned to the shop, absent-mindedly flipping through the account books. My mind was preoccupied with the floods in the south. I needed to gather medicinal herbs for epidemic prevention as soon as possible, just in case. After days of overcast and rainy weather, once the skies cleared, the herbs piled up in the storeroom would all need to be taken out to air and dry. There are too many things to do. As long as you keep moving forward each day, you will eventually witness every sunrise and sunset. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.